Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fourth iteration of TEDxIIIT Bangalore. As Trevor Bayliss has correctly said, the key to success is thinking unconventional thoughts. Convention is the enemy of progress. With this thought in mind, I present to you this year's theme, unconventionality. Now I would like to request our director, Professor Debabrata Das, to say a few words.
Welcome to the fourth edition of TEDxIIIT Bangalore. TEDxIIIT Bangalore, which is well known as the International Institute of Information Technology, situated in the Bangalore city. It is a deemed university broadly doing research and teaching in the areas of information technology. However, to give our students a broader perspective of life and to be successful in their career, we have working with the TEDx for this theme called unconventional in this particular edition of TEDxIIIT Bangalore. In this unconventional theme, we have invited successful individuals of different areas of life. Those will be presenting about their experiences and their success stories. So we welcome all the students and all the attendees to TEDxIIIT Bangalore 4th edition event today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful talk. Now I'd like to call upon our organizers, Vijay and Mansa, to speak a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 4th edition and 2nd virtual edition of TEDxIIIT Bangalore. We have a stellar cast of speakers who will speak about a plethora of topics: fitness and health, science, entertainment, cybersecurity, music, creativity, you name it, and we have it all covered.
We wish to highlight the people taking the road less taken in our community and the real trailblazers of our society. With that in mind, our theme this year is unconventionality. We believe there's something in store for all of you in the audience. So let's get started and let's kick off TEDxIIIT Bangalore Edition 4.
Thank you, Manasa and Vijay. I know you've all been waiting to listen to our speakers. So, without further ado, let's get started with the event. Our first speaker for the evening is Commodore G Prakash. Commodore G Prakash, a veteran naval aviator and anti-submarine warfare specialist of 36 years, has commanded 3 warships and 3 large shore bases. With exposure to operations, policy making, training and administration, and personal passion for academics, he has been lecturing military and civilian audiences on national security, strategy, international relations, maritime history, leadership, and management for over 2 decades.
I wore my first military style uniform when I joined a Sainik school, a military school in Kerala, before I hit double digits in age. After wearing that uniform for 8 years, I wore the uniform of the National Defence Academy for 3 years, and thereafter the white uniform of the Indian Navy for 36 years. That means for 47 out of my 58 years on planet Earth were in uniform. My father served the Indian Air Force for 38 years. So that means you can technically say that I was born into the world of uniform. And my son has already been in the whites of the Navy for the last 13 years. So with that kind of deep association with uniform, I should be the last person expected to hold forth on unconventionality. Maybe that is being unconventional. Unconventionality is a great asset in the armed forces, because prudence tells you that the best of plans can survive only till the first contact with the enemy, and thereafter impromptu innovation based on the facts on ground, sometimes, in fact most often, without even full information, what is called the fog of war, is the norm, and unconventionality helps us in that. It's only an intelligent commander who understands that missiles, ships, helicopters, radars, tactics are all just pieces on a chessboard. Unless they are innovatively used, they are of no use. Now, there have been great military leaders in history who have won great battles overcoming great odds. And one name that towers very tall among them is of Lord Nelson, Admiral Lord Nelson. Lord Nelson's zenith came at his victory at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, where he fought the combined fleets of Spain and France. All put together, Nelson had about 33 ships, and the Franco-Spanish fleet had about 40 ships. At the end of the day, when the battle was over, the British had not lost a single ship, whereas the Franco-Spanish fleet had lost more than half. 21 ships captured and 1 ship destroyed. The Franco-Spanish force had lost almost 16,000 people dead or injured, whereas the British had lost hardly 1,600. And the fun is that at the beginning of this battle, Lord Nelson had got shot by a French sniper, and he was at the bottom of his ship bleeding and dying. And at the end of the day, after someone whispers into his ear that the battle had been won, he died. Now, how did this happen? How did this asymmetric victory become possible for a weak British force against a strong Franco-Spanish fleet? And that too when their leader, Admiral Nelson, was not there to lead them. That is because at Trafalgar that day, Admiral Nelson employed absolute unconventionality. In those days, ships of the line, big fighting ships with sail, used to have their guns mounted only on the sides. That means they could only fire sideways. They could not fire ahead or behind. So, when two fleets fought, what they would do is that they would form straight lines, one after the other, and then engage the enemy who is in a parallel line on either side. Now, that day in Trafalgar, as the Franco-Spanish fleet started forming a line when they realized that the British were close, Nelson did not do that. He did not form a parallel line, and instead he cut his line into two and went at 90 degrees towards the Franco-Spanish line and cut them into three. That straightaway took the first 1/3 of the Franco-Spanish line out of the battle, and those were the ships of sail. They couldn't have turned easily, and even if they had turned, they couldn't have fired because the French and the Franco-Spanish ships were now in a melee and fighting. And Nelson's forces thereafter engaged the enemy closely. They jumped into their ships and they killed them, and they captured their ships and defeated them. That's how this incident was possible, because of absolute unconventionality employed by Nelson that day. Now, almost everyone is born unconventional. We have our personal traits, but those have to stay with you as you grow up so that these things flower. Nelson also, in his childhood and his early teenage, had all the classical reasons which psychologists say which brings in people a craving for glory, for success, for offensive. He had all that, but that is not enough. You also need to have a setting. The setting came in the form of incessant wars between Britain and France. There was the 7 Years' War from 1756 to 1763, then the American War of Independence, then the French Revolutionary Wars, and finally the Napoleonic Wars. So Nelson was lucky. He had his personal traits, and with all these wars, he also had a setting. But that was not enough. The service had to have a fighting spirit. Unfortunately for the British, from 1700s, they had been weighed down by formal fighting instructions, and their fighting spirit had been dulled. They had insipid leaders, and they fought indecisive battles. And all that was set to change. A trigger that was required soon came during the 7 Years' War. During the 7 Years' War, in 1757, Admiral John Byng, who was commanding a squadron of ships in the English Channel, was told to proceed to Minorca, an island in the Mediterranean, a British island in the Mediterranean, and to ensure that it does not fall to the French. Now, Admiral Byng and his ships had been at sea for some time, and he is low on repairs, he was low on provisions. So he asked the government, he asked the Admiralty for help, but they told him, this is war, you need to go fast. So he comes, he goes to Gibraltar, he approaches the governor at Gibraltar, and he still doesn't get any aid, and he finally lands up off Minorca. When he lands up at Minorca, they realize that the French had already landed on the western side of Minorca Island, and they were slowly proceeding towards the east where the British garrison was. So Admiral Byng has a little meeting with his captains of the ships with him, and they decide that it may not be worth fighting now that the French had already landed. However, just when they decided to leave the place, a French squadron, which is matched in numbers with the British, appeared there, and the French gave battle. Naturally, Admiral Byng lost that battle and went back in shame to England. And when he reached England, there was much public outcry, and there was this famous slogan, "Swing, swing, Admiral Byng." They wanted him hanged. So Admiral Byng was taken into custody, and they started a court martial. And the charge against him was not doing his utmost. His personal bravery was acknowledged, but they said the charge was that he had not done his utmost and hence lost that battle. Unfortunately for him, the court martial upheld the charge. And when this charge was upheld, the only punishment possible was death. And unfortunately, Admiral Byng was shot dead as a result of the court martial's verdict. It was a shocking incident. It shocked the service, not just in Britain, but everywhere else in Europe too. 2 years later, the French philosopher and writer Voltaire, in his satire Candide, wrote that in this country, that is in Britain, they considered it good to kill an admiral from time to time just to encourage the others. Those were the times. But the result of Byng's death was that it changed the British Navy. Now there was an offensive spirit. Now they had a bunch of rash, mean, cruel commodores and captains at sea. They knew that they had a free hand in battle, but they also knew that if they did not use that free hand, the hand wouldn't be there. The result was that the British Navy became benchmark for naval warfighting, and their officers understood that combat is a free and wild thing that needs extemporization. However, it's a fact of life that no great event, nothing in this world can change everyone. It is not that the British Navy entirely transformed. There were still insipid leaders and there were still indecisive battles. It's just that those who were indulging in that were being caught and punished. Now Nelson had his traits, he had the setting through wars, and that offensive spirit in the service came through Admiral Byng's death. But then even that is not enough. You need to have like-minded people as your bosses all the time. And luckily for Nelson, in his crucial years, when he was senior, when he fought his famous battles, he had like-minded bosses above him. He had Admiral Hyde Parker in the Battle of Copenhagen, who told Lord Nelson that he must withdraw. He made a signal and told Nelson to take a look. And Nelson very famously took his telescope and put it to his blind eye and said that he could not read the signal. And he did not withdraw. And he fought and he won that battle. There was Admiral Jarvis, who was his commander-in-chief, who loved Nelson for his offensive spirit. That is because Lord Jarvis, who was a young captain when the time Admiral Byng was shot, had grown up in that offensive service, and he was also the same variety who loved glory, who loved action, and who stood by the truth, whatever be the challenge. So now Nelson had the right bosses too. Even that is not enough. Nelson wouldn't have survived. It's true to say that, it's right to say that Nelson wouldn't have survived in today's Navy. He didn't have one eye, he lost an arm, he lost most of his teeth. But worst of all, he had a very public affair with someone else's wife while he himself was married. But then the times were different. Britain was obsessed with the thought of Napoleon's invasion of Britain. And Napoleon was one big character they had to fight. And the country, the Admiralty, the service all found Captain Nelson, who had already caught the imagination of the public, to be shown as that counter for Napoleon. So he was a national hero. So it was not easy to get him. So now Nelson had all these factors going for him. The Nelson that the Franco-Spanish fleet saw at Trafalgar was born because of all this. What was Nelson's luck? Nelson's luck was that his service, the service that he functioned in, and the country to which the service belonged, were all focused on the core job of the Navy, that is war fighting. Any organization, any country, any person who takes his eyes off the core job suffers. And the example for this is given by the British themselves. Because of the victory of 1805, the British Navy became the uncrowned kings of the world, of the oceans. And Britain, after the Napoleonic Wars ended, became the world's unchallenged superpower. Then came the Victorian era. From 1805 to 1914, the British fleet didn't have to fight any fleet action. And Britain didn't have any major wars. During the Victorian era, Britain had peace, they had absence of war. They had industrial revolution at its peak. They had political stability, and they ruled the empire on which the sun never set. So they had peace, they had prosperity, they had technology, and they had political stability. This is the best combination that any country can ask for. But the net result was that when the First World War came, the British Navy had transformed in the opposite direction. They were very good at everything except fighting, their core job. Now that is what peace does, the absence of the core job does to any organization or any person or any country. Absence of an opportunity to do the core job changes organizations. There are studies which classify officers into authoritarians and autocrats. Another study calls it regulators and rat catchers. Authoritarians or regulators are very good at running day-to-day jobs, where they just go by tradition and they just continue to do the same things the same way. And autocrats or rat catchers are problem solvers. They may not follow tradition, but in case of trouble, they are the ones who can solve problems, and they are the ones who are unconventional. Any organization that is focused on its core job will covet the presence of unconventional people, because they are the ones who can question the status quo, they can come up with new solutions, ask new questions. Like everyone else, I have also coveted unconventionality all my life. But whether I turned out to be unconventional while in service is not for me to judge, it is for those who were with me to judge. However, there is one episode I would like to convey. It is in 2007 when I was doing the war course, the Navy war course at the Naval War College. We had a three-day session with late Vice Admiral Hiranandani, who retired as the Vice Chief of the Indian Navy and who was the Fleet Operations Officer of the Western Fleet of the Indian Navy during the Indo-Pakistan 1971 war. After he heard one of my talks, which was analyzing some part of the service, he made this statement from the podium. He said, "Son, I hope you continue to speak with the same fervor all your life. Let me assure you, it will get you nowhere." But he said that, look, we get our best medals are given to us by ourselves, and you, I'm sure, will get a lot of good medals from yourself. So that is my message to my young audience and any other young audiences who might listen to this talk. This world is changing. The world has already changed, and the rate of change is faster with every generation. Today, with climate change, with the effect of cyber, with artificial intelligence, with political systems bursting at the seams, with faiths and many other forces pulling us back into medieval thought processes, it's a challenging world out there. So that is a good time to avoid flowing with the wind or swimming with the tide. This is the time to ask questions, to be creative. It's rewarding. Unconventionality is rewarding. It's refreshing. And what's the fun is that even if you try and you lose, it's still great fun, because you would be very proud that you had tried something new. Unconventionality is a fantastic asset, and that's a wonderful trait to have in your lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commodore, for that enlightening talk. Our next speaker is Badhri Seshadri. An independent musician, songwriter, and composer, Badhri Seshadri is the founder of the show Motta Madi Music. This first-of-a-kind show puts the audience in charge and has served as a platform for many up-and-coming artists to showcase their talents. Through his Oru Kutti Kadhai, he has penned, composed, and collaborated with many talented artists in the industry.
Hello everyone. I'm a musician. I'm a musician who didn't come from a musical background. And I didn't grow up in a music friendly neighborhood. And my formal training into music just started at the age of 20. So my idea of music mostly came from the perspective of an audience, how they perceive it, how they listen it, how much they love it. So I so wanted to be a part of this world, be a part of this beautiful music world, and I slowly started to equip myself to be a part of it and to belong in it. Growing up, I was just this happy go lucky kid who ensured that my playtime never got disturbed because of my average marks in the examinations. I think my parents didn't care much of my average marks because I think they knew that education is not all about just what we study in the books. I was just this happy kid, and my perspective towards music changed because of this particular channel. It was a local TV channel called SCV during our times, which played music for 24 hours. By 24 hours, I mean there are no commercial advertisements in between. It continuously plays songs. Whatever time you wake up, there will be songs all the time. So without any conscious effort, I was surrounding myself with Tamil songs of different eras. So I wake up every day with Tamil music. I wake up every day with this masterpieces and classics of Tamil music composers. Over a period of time, my attention turned towards the musicians behind these masterpieces. But at that stage, it was still fascination for me about these larger than life musicians and how they get celebrated, and how their music and how their knowledge in music actually turns millions of people's emotions. They make it happy, they make them sad, they make them feel something which they cannot feel on a normal day. The interest then evolved into observing the background scores in the movies and how the sounds and the music elevated the story. Things started to like fall down in places, I guess, because slowly I started to understand that sounds and the music is my invisible hero while watching a movie. I started to realize that sound is my storyteller, and the storytelling through sound impacted me more than what a visual medium will probably do to me. I started watching movies from different era and languages to understand how sounds probably evolved across various media and technology to where it is today. The possibility of its future thrilled me, like it impacted me very well. It kind of made me realize that okay, what else it can happen now. It is 360-degree, and where else this sound perspective can go. And that kind of made me realize okay, I think I belong here, I need to be a part of this sound world. And then I asked my parents and I convinced my parents to switch my occupation. So I enrolled myself in an audio engineering course after completing my civil engineering degree. Looking back, there was no one moment, or that is like no one person who decided or who inspired my decision to dedicate myself to this art. I was just another person amongst the audience, and who got intrigued by this art, and time kind of decided where I want to be and what makes me very happy and what I want to pursue. So the first day at my audio engineering course, I was this wide-eyed young man who was fantasizing everything that was around me, and probably the only person who was not a musician or relatively less musical knowledge. But for the first time in my life, I found myself absolutely fascinated with my subjects, and I just couldn't get enough time to get into more details and to just go along the studios and everywhere. I was just this enthu kid in the class. I showed a lot of interest, and I was a topper in my batch, and I envisioned my life as in like an endless opportunities and learnings with respect to sound and music. In this pursuit, one of the rude awakenings for me was the real-time opportunities I got. I simply couldn't bring myself to accepting projects or accepting jobs which would really suck the life and love out of what I do, just for the reason of having a job. So for the larger part of my life, I remained jobless, doing projects here and there just to survive and just to kind of be there and probably barely afloat. I often thought about my journey to that point and the purpose of why I'm here. It was in those hours of frustration and desperation that took me back to the days where I listened to music without a care in the world. Where my nights and days were filled dreaming about the life inside a music studio and how my favorite songs actually came into being. I realized that being an audience, being that kid who would listen to SCV all day long, was where it all started. And recreating that experience with my friends would bring some light and some inspiration to my days. With that intention in mind, one fine evening, I updated my Facebook status asking anyone who would be interested in my friends to come to join me to sing and listen to the songs with me, and that's how Motamadi music came to my life. From my terrace with just my friends to my shows among thousand people, I understood that it was the audience who lets music speak to them in the way they wanted, and the industry revolved around the audience. How can a piece of music or how can a piece of performance can make the audience very happy? Probably once again, I felt that time helped me understand what I wanted in life and how I can bring back something that I wanted if I was patient enough for it. From the get-go, the focus of Motamadi music has been to be an avenue for people to relax and sing their hearts out rather than the popularity or the financial success of it. So we started a ritual where we conduct free sessions every 45 days consistently, and to our surprise, in every single iteration, people kept bringing more and more friends. Everything was so organic about it, and everything was so cheerful about it. It became a circle of positivity, and it became a circle of just music and music lovers. I mean, when there is a space like that, who wouldn't want to be there? Those exhilarating times often made me question, how did we go from 25 people to over 1,000 people clamoring in nearby terraces that almost got us into trouble? I realized that these are some of the reasons. One, Motamadi music started as an idea that there will be no stage whatsoever. The setup was in such a way that the musicians and the audience are in the same plane, where the later steering the show after a point of time. In that way, there was no hierarchy set. Second, we consciously wanted to help people to get over their fear of singing in public and let go of their inhibitions. So from making the shows happen during evenings to cozy lightings, so the idea was to focus on helping our audience feel very relaxed and enjoy, and also to make sure it is dark so that nobody's face will be seen, so that their inhibitions goes down. Third, it was and still continues to revolve entirely around the audience as a whole. There are no celebrities in the band, and there is no single person who is a showstopper in the band. So it is always the audience who is in the prime focus. And fourth, the idea of the show relied heavily on spontaneity with no extra rehearsals for the musicians, so that the audience never feel inferior to the musicians. So if like audience can make mistakes, the musicians can also make mistakes. So in that way, everything was on the same plane, where nobody showed an hierarchy over the another one. When we were looking at venues to expand, we chose an auditorium to break the paradigm of artist versus audience, where the audience have always been audience, where the non-musicians always felt that they cannot be on that stage. We wanted to take a traditional setup and fit in our audience first idea, and it clicked really well. As we traveled across cities, we adapted the city and its audience. And it taught us the musical style of each city and the sensibility, so that the audience in Trichy felt at ease and at home, like our audience at my very own terrace did. As we took the concept to Dubai, our first international audience, we just tapped to our audience's nostalgia of singing their favorite songs in their mother tongue, just like how it was for them, how it would be for them back home. As the scopes expanded, the boundaries started diminishing, and as the idea was all about the audience and their connect with Tamil music, irrespective of which part of the world they are currently in, they all felt home when they came inside, and they all felt as performers when they came inside. And at the end of the day, it was all positive for them, and that's all I wanted. At this juncture, I want to add how the approach to Motamadi music experience involved and influenced my personal journey as an independent musician. I was visualizing music that was made for the characters that will in turn express the story behind it. Or I always thought my music is storytelling and it's not just about notes or whatsoever it is. But I wanted it to be free of an actual movie plot or even the typical 5-minute track. One question that always occurred to me was who said this norm of a track should be 4 minute or 5 minute? When it is storytelling, why cannot it be like for a minute, for 1 minute or a half? And that made me do Oru Kutti Kadai. Oru Kutti Kadai is my series of independent music where the tracks is for 1.5 minutes and it's majorly revolves around a character or a story, and the song tells about that character or the story. And so I experimented with a series of musical videos. The music mostly was like well received by the audience. In many ways, I realized that my approach to Motamadi and Kutti Kadai has been the same, where the soul of these two formats revolve around conversations with the audience, and this is how I would always like to have my approach towards music. I will always be that audience who will first receive music and then try to perceive it and give it back to someone in the way how I would like to be received. The experience that I gained through these two facets of my life so far has taught me this valuable lesson. Consistency, grit, and determination are directly proportional to time. With adequate patience to let things take shape organically, have learned that time rewards me with better opportunities. I would like to conclude my story here with the favorite lyrics of a song, which technically translates to: when you lose what you have in your hand, you get something that is bigger and better. As I said, everything is directly proportional to time, so is patience. And I guess that also pretty much sums up my life, isn't it?
Hope you all are enjoying the talks. We have many more amazing talks lined up for you. But before that, let's refresh ourselves with a dance performance by Nikhila and Varsha, PhD students of TEDxIIIT Bangalore.
That was a mesmerizing performance. Now hold on to your seats for our next speaker, Puneet Bhasin. In India, when it comes to the internet, Puneet Bhasin is literally the law. She is an advisory to the Rajya Sabha Committee on matter of internet laws and technology laws. Any crime related to e-commerce or intellectual property thefts in the cyberspace, Puneet Bhasin is the person to go to. Let's have a look at her journey.
This is Advocate Puneet Bhasin here, and I'm glad to address all of you in this TEDx talk. Now, considering the subject of my TEDx talk, one of the key things that I would like to start with or leave you with this thought to begin with is almost each one of us has been a cyber criminal at some or the other point of time. Knowingly, unknowingly, we've all been there and done that. It's just that maybe the extent of the offense may not have been such that there was action taken further. Now, before we delve into how each of us has been cyber criminals in different capacities, let's look at why and how this rise of cybercrimes in India has happened over the last 5 to 10 years. Now, it's very interesting. A lot of people end up saying that, there's a rise in the crime rate that is happening online. Let me tell you one thing. It's not the crime rate that is increasing online. It is just that the crimes that happen physically have now started manifesting digitally. So what's tending to happen is physical stalking is replaced by online stalking. In the same fashion, you will see physical thefts are replaced by online wallet thefts. So today you don't have a pocket mar who's running behind to slice across your pocket to take money. You have a person who's sitting remotely, probably in an air-conditioned room, and is just going to swipe out money from your wallet. So there is this kind of a replacement of physical crime. So the crime rate always existed, was always high. It's just that the modus operandi of these crimes has changed. Now, why do people commit such cybercrimes? Now, this is a common question that comes to any person's mind. Now, why is it a person committed a theft prior to there being digital mediums of committing offenses? So there is no particular reason as to why a person is using a particular medium or committing these offenses. Crime per se has always existed. Criminals have had their own reasons for committing crimes. Now, if you will see, particularly with respect to cyber crimes, you have organized sectors, organized groups, and you have unorganized groups for crimes. Now, in these organized sectors, now they are the kind of attackers who are very well sponsored. They are the kind of people who have good funding, resources, very sophisticated, and honestly, to fight somebody as organized, it's not that easy at all. When you're talking about the unorganized attackers, they are the ones who are mostly amateurs. They're people who are trying to, try their hand at something like this. And they are the people who can also be disgruntled employees. So they are not that sophisticated in their level of capabilities. And they are the kind of people whom you can actually control to some extent. You can prevent these kind of attacks to a great extent. So as I told you, amateurs, disgruntled employees, people or relatives who have had some form of bad blood with you, these are the kind of people who are cyber criminals, who are unorganized cyber criminals, not that sophisticated, and they definitely leave traces also because they're not that professional. When you're talking of the organized sector of cyber criminals, they are the kind of cyber criminals who are absolutely well trained, and they are this, there are different categories of them. Like you have state-sponsored attackers. They are the ones who are well funded by different countries, and these countries, upon their funding, training, are providing them the resources. So they are the very highly sophisticated category of attackers. You also obviously have syndicates, organized crime syndicates who come in the organized categories, who are well funded, well supported, having a full chain of people supporting them in this entire activity of cyber crimes. So these are the ways we bifurcate normally cyber criminals. Now, based on the type of cyber criminal that you're dealing with, you need to very well, as I told you, identify who is the threat actor attacking you. Based on that is what your next step and your action and legal recourse is always going to be. So if you don't have a clarity of the nature of threat actor whom you are being exposed to, the chances that you will be able to secure yourself or take the right actions is always going to be limited. Now, just to have an insight into the psychology of a cyber criminal. Now, what goes on in their mind when they want to do something like this? Again, very similar to what any other physical crime, any other person who has committed any physical crime, the same thought process is what is there in a cyber criminal's mind also. But the only distinction that tends to happen here is the feeling of anonymity. So a cyber criminal thrives on the feeling that the chances of him being traced, tracked, and punished are comparatively remote and lesser as compared to a person who is committing a crime physically. So this kind of gives him a liberty or a freedom to do more, commit more offenses, do it, on a more widespread scale. The thought that he may never be arrested, or that there may be no tracking for him, or any manner in which he can evade a lot of these things. So that's exactly the mindset that most of them have. Now, when you talk about multiple cyber crimes, now when we're talking of financial crimes, we are talking about crimes which are related to stalking. The entire mindset is in this nature, where they can get away with as much as they can online, which is absolutely um, anonymous. But when we are talking about cyber criminals who are, let's say, committing offenses of cyberbullying, trolling, their mindset is something which is very different. Wherein basically, the more you are going to get aggravated, the more you're going to respond to them, it kind of gives kicks to people. So these kind of criminals are the ones who get more and more kicks out of your responses, your fear. They feed on your emotions and thought processes. So out here, it is very important for you to disconnect from these criminals and ensure that you are not responding to them. So irrespective of whether it's trolling, it's cyberbullying, the moment they cannot affect you, they lose power over you, and the whole interest in wanting to pursue you is not there then. The next important part that we would come to is, as I told you, many times we ourselves are the people who are perpetuators of these offenses. Now, how is it that we are perpetuators of cybercrimes? Now, I'm sure quite many of you all would have gone about downloading videos of songs and movies. Is it always that you have paid for these videos? There would be multiple occasions where you have not paid for these videos, but you have availed these videos. Now, these kind of cases where you are availing the videos, watching them, streaming them, downloading them without paying for them. Now, this is where you have committed an offense too. There are multiple such occasions where people innocently are doing it. There are many times you troll somebody innocently. There are many times you are slandering somebody innocently. Sometimes you may have committed online defamation, where you have committed, you could say you have made any statements against your boss on some social media platform, which may not be true. So you would have done these things simply in innocence, but yes, those all constitute offenses. Now, when we see this in the entire light of, even we can potentially be perpetrators without ever understanding the same. Uh, Even the concept of being a victim in cyberspace, to some extent, is actually because of our own vulnerabilities. Now, if you just take a simple example of the online scams that are there, where people approach you with respect to, let's say, saying that you have won a lottery, and that you have to pay so and so amount of money, etc., and then post that you will be able to redeem your money. Now, why is it that people fall into this trap? The sole reason people fall into the trap is because of their own vulnerability. You may yourself have some need for money, funds, and these people know very well how to exploit human vulnerability. Now, largely, they will always target people whom they can, to some or the other extent, manipulate. So, either the entire motivation will be money, affection, love. So, you will see a lot of these scams would also involve online romance, where you will see them on multiple dot coms, fake profiles, or on dating platforms, or directly via email. Also, people tend to contact, which are again not genuine people. So you will have many such kind of interactions which you would have seen, where even you could say love is used as a tool of manipulation. So uh, the human vulnerability is what is always exploited. So it's very important for you, if you ever realize or feel that there is something which is too good to be happening, you should really step back and think, if it's too good to be true, maybe it is actually not true. So if I genuinely have a need for money and somebody is just coming forward to give me money and offering me that, it's something that one should give 10 times a thought in their mind, that this potentially could be a very, very big scam. It's very natural. When you have a need for something, you are just going to alienate all the possibilities of it being, of somebody offering you money being anything which is remotely scammy at all, because you really want it. You want that your wishes are fulfilled at that point of time. That's also human nature. But you need to take a pause at that point of time, rethink at that point of time, and understand that everything that shines is not gold, is not diamonds. You genuinely need to take a pause, understand, why does somebody want to help you? Why does somebody want to interact with you? The moment you start asking these questions of why, and you start getting those answers, you will come to realize that whether this is something genuine or an absolute scam. It's always better to think before you leap, and it's very important to ask these questions with a very, very rational mindset. So these are few of the ways in which you can ensure that you are not manipulated by cyber criminals. Now you need to understand cyber manipulation is not just wherein people are just strung along a story and victims of a scam. You need to understand many times the psychological repercussions of such manipulation by cyber criminals is pretty bad. So if you will see, there have been online games wherein children have been manipulated, Blue Whale and multiple other such games which are there, the Momo Challenge and all. Now you need to understand that children, when being subjected to such kind of manipulations, the kind of, you could say, damage it causes to their mind. So children who have committed suicide in the process. So it's not just securing yourself from the manipulation. Many times dealing with the manipulation, and let's say if you are surviving out of such manipulation, then coming back to normalcy. Now here we spoke about children. It's not just children. Many times even adults, if you will see, coming out of such kind of a psychological manipulation is very, very difficult. So it is very important out there also to seek support, to ensure that you are thinking before you are getting involved with anybody online without having full credential verification. And very important many times to seek counseling. So in today's times, there are specific counselors who deal with people who are victims of cyber crimes, victims of cyber bullying, victims of cyber stalking, and they actually help and support these victims to understand and come back to a normal mindset, so that the entire disturbance of these incidents does not pursue them for a lifetime. So many times it's important to take that step of actually seeking help also. Now, there are cyber psychologists, there are people who are providing specialized services in this area to children, adults, women, men. So it's not that men don't end up getting impacted. So it's a very interesting thing that people only feel women and children. When they become victims of online cyber crimes, they feel disturbed, depressed, whereas men do not. But in my area of practice, I have seen there are multiple times where men are also highly disturbed. They also suffer from depression. They also go through the same mental turmoil that women or children do. It's just that maybe they don't talk about it that much, and they really never seek help. So it's very important, if in your family you have any man who has also faced such kind of offenses, it's important to take that step, get him counseling, get help from men also. Now, looking at the overall scenario, if you will think that you will be able to escape becoming a victim of cyber crimes, I think that's pretty remote. Most of us, not just as we started the entire discussion with the premise that we have all been perpetrators of cyber crimes, we have also been victims of cyber crimes. Now, again, in today's times, there will be not a single person who can say, I have never been a victim of a cyber crime. There have been multiple occasions you may be abused online. There may be multiple occasions. There may be fake content posted by you about you by somebody. There would be something or the other that has happened with you. So it's very important for you also to raise your voice, report it to the platform, report it to the police if it's a serious offense, involve your family if it involves something serious at that point of time, go to the law enforcement, take action. If it's not something that isn't that serious, definitely you should get the post pulled down, or you should take action with the social media platform or the online platform, whatever the case may be. You should take those steps. Now, with this, actually, I come to an end with the sermon which I was giving on safe usage of social media, safe usage of online platforms by not just women and children, but also by men. But with this, I come to an end of this sermon. One of the very important things which I would like to conclude this entire discussion with is cybercrimes can happen to anyone, anywhere. But yes, staying safe is in your hands. It's something that you can actually proactively take care of by always having your antenna standing up to know that you should never ever fall victim to some kind of a ploy which definitely is too good to be true. With this, I come to an end of with my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful talk. Our much awaited next speaker is Prateek Sethi. FAQ on Pogo channel was an integral part of every millennial's childhood. Prateek Sethi of FAQ Pogo fame is a creative director at Trip Creative Services, a multi-award winning communication design house based out of Mumbai and Pune. An animator, producer, director, designer, and an avid aerial cinematographer with over 16 years of experience. He is always on the lookout for new and exciting ways to engage his audiences.
Hi, I'm Prateek Sethi and I am a communication designer. Thank you TEDxIIITBangalore Bangalore for having me over for this talk. Today, I'm going to speak about how to excel in the creative industry via 15 memes from Monty Python. Now, the reason I choose memes is because memes are a part of popular culture and they're a part of how we communicate today. So you must be wondering, what is a meme? Well, a meme is an element of a culture or system of behavior passed from one individual to another by imitation or other non-genetic means. An image, video, piece of text, etc., typically humorous in nature, that is copied and spread rapidly by internet users, often with slight variations. This definition is from the Oxford Language Dictionary. Monty Python was a series that was started in 1969 and ran through all the way till 2014. The Pythons, like they like to call themselves, was a group of individuals who brought about drastic change in satire, humor, comedy, but talking about real world issues like power, gender, society, and so on and so forth. They set about creating an important moment in the evolution of television comedy. Things which were in satire and dark humor, but at the same time were identified as being humorous. It was considered okay. And this was back in 1969 and the 70s. So why is it today with sensitized audiences that we get so disturbed by another point of view? This is something that we should be aware of and we should be ready to tackle. To excel in the creative industry, you need to be bold. It's extremely important for you to get out there. So I'll start with the first meme. Explore. Explore, explore, explore. To look at everything in life and learn from it. Exploration does not just mean that you just go in one direction. You should be able to take on multifacets. You should be able to take on different thoughts and always look at a point, not just from a particular direction, but from over, under, around it, to try and encapsulate and try and visualize a holistic picture. For me, communication design is problem solving. And being a designer means that we have to find the right solutions for our clients or the problem that we're trying to solve. Take on Goliath. Always be ready to take on challenges. Put yourself in a situation in which you feel that you're not going to be comfortable, but excel and rise to the task. Take on bigger companies, take on bigger tasks, take on bigger thoughts. Always try and level up the game. Always try and level up your own personal learnings and always try and level up your team. So always be ready to take on challenges. That is the key learning from this point. Make your own reality. As a creative, it's extremely important for us to use our imagination. And our imagination is one of our key tools that we can use to build different worlds, scenarios, products, things that can be utilized by people in general. Believe in yourself, believe in yourself, believe in your team, believe in the project that you're working on. If you believe in what you are working on, that's half the battle won. It's necessary for you to understand the fact that yes, there are going to be problems. Yes, there are going to be concerns. Yes, there are going to be massive issues that are going to come up. I mean, otherwise it would be pretty bland. There are going to be things that are going to come as hurdles in your way. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your team's capabilities. And you have to make sure that you find the constraints, work about them, and get on with it. Break the rhythm. We as designers get stuck in the rut. Always try and find maybe newer ways of doing different tasks or the same task. It kind of spices up the scenario. It spices up the product. It spices up the way you function and how things can be built. So don't get stuck in the rut. Don't get stuck in your style. Don't get stuck in the way you like to do things. Keep using the earlier explore methods. Keep trying to figure out newer ways of building things together, getting people together, and working on different projects. Mistakes maketh the man. We all talk about all the successes that people have had and all the great things they've done and the awards they've won. But what we don't realize is that with every success, there were 1,000 mistakes as well. And those mistakes is actually what makes the project or the man. We've all heard about Edison and Tesla, and we've also know about their achievements. But at the same time, we also know about the fact that they had thousands of experiments that they worked on before. And those experiments also led to different discoveries. Not just be stuck on the glory per se, but also look at the stepping stones to that point, which makes the product unique or which makes our journey unique. I'm a broadcast kid. For me, broadcast is an extremely important part of the whole process. Today, with social media, it's become really easy for us to get our ideas out there. But at the same time, there's so much more happening and there are people doing so much of work that you kind of get lost in the noise or you get lost in the clutter, so to speak. When I joined television, I was like, I'm going to pull my eyes out, the amount of content that was going on. And luckily, at that time, there was a definite need for science-based shows and science-based learning. And we found that gap. And I was luckily pulled in by the seniors from the network, from the production houses, and they found something in me. They saw something in me and my team, and that's how, as a team, as a unit, we were able to create content which was science oriented, which was not just entertainment, it was edutainment, and that for us was a massive stepping stone. Learn to give and take feedback. Learn to use feedback. We a lot of the times show our work to our clients and our superiors, and we're like, look, this is a masterpiece and this is a piece of art and whatnot rubbish. In the creative industry, it becomes necessary for you to, yes, create unique concepts, experiences, or unique ideas. But at the same time, those need to materialize into usable products or usable thoughts or tangible requirements as per what the brief is. So follow the whole process. The process of not just having a great piece of art or a great piece of communication, but is that usable? Important for you to take feedback from the end user. And that is an extremely integral part of the whole creative industry and, of course, even design. Let your work blow your trumpet. There are a lot of times I meet people who talk about, we've done this, we've done that, we've done this and that, and we're so great and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, great, let me have a look at their work. And you're like, this work, yeah, sure, I've seen better. And at some level, that's fantastic that, look, they're out there, they're pushing their work. But at the same time, your work should be able to blow trumpets as well. So rather than just being all hot air, your work should be able to speak for itself. And only way to do that is to do great work. And doing great work can only happen when you rejoice with your crew. Once you've done things, you need to enjoy it. You need to enjoy the whole process. Yes, there are going to be times at which you're going to be like, I can't take this anymore. But you need to understand there is a joy in that as well. And I don't mean that in a sadistic way, but there is a joy in every aspect of the process of creativity. And you should definitely rejoice all aspects and parts of it. When times are tough, when things are not headed anywhere, when you feel like you're having a mental block or you're stuck somewhere, it becomes very necessary to adapt. And when you adapt or pivot, or when you look at the same problem from a different angle, that's when things start coming to light. And that really helps in understanding how you can move this project further. In terms of also at the same time, when you're working in a team, it helps reposition, rejig the dynamic, and that really comes in handy in the process. An example of this is, we saw the Bhava Chakra, which is the wheel of life, and it is about samsara, which is the circle of life and death in Tibetan Indian Buddhism. We always see it as a flat painting on the wall of monasteries, of learning areas, and Buddhist temples. And there are only 2 or 3 places in the world where you'll see a sort of 3D-esque Bhav Chakra. So one is at the Dazu rock carvings, which is a UNESCO heritage site in China. And there is another one which is an embossed version. The 3D representation, which is there in China, is there, but it's not a complete front back. And even the embossing is just a raised embossing. So we decided that, look, let's try and visualize what would happen behind. So let's make a 3-dimensional Bhava Chakra. It took us more than a year to complete this model, as it's an extremely intricate model, and we were working between shifts, so to speak. Take something which is flat and give it another perspective, and that's the power of adaptation, which is by looking at something and a lot of versions of it and a lot of examples of it, we were able to create this piece of art. Collaborate. Nothing in life happens in isolation. There is always other beings involved. You are as strong as your team. You need to collaborate with a lot of people to be able to get and create things and push the envelope, personally as well as a team or a unit or a group of people working towards a common goal. And collaboration is something that has brought a lot of us together. The Animators Guild of India is one such platform. Indians, but we don't get to hear about them because on the global platform, they're lost in the clutter or they're lost in the noise. So this Animators Guild became a great platform for us to disseminate information, a place which becomes a library of thought, showcasing the fantastic Indian talent, doing some great design, art, and animation work. Now, in all of this, when you're working in the creative industry, at some point it can get very overwhelming. We can have burnouts, we can be completely brain fried, and we're just like, okay, look, I can't do this anymore. And you need time out because your brain is on overdrive most of the time. So it becomes necessary to have pet projects, because pet projects then kind of help you spend your energies in ways which are beyond just the client approach or problem solving. And these pet projects are extremely necessary for the creative mind. So one such pet project that I have is the Folktales of India. And in this pet project, what we're doing is we take a folktale from a particular region of India and match it up with an art form of that region, and then animate the folktale using that art form. A lot of these art forms are not animated. Inscriptions, they're like patras, they're like manuscripts, scrolls, paintings, and so on and so forth. And what this became as another great effort towards adaptation, collaboration, was that we were able to get in a lot of artists and directors and team members to be able to build these stories. So it has become a great tool for us to showcase the beautiful folk tales of the Indian subcontinent. At the same time, a good platform for the excessive energies that I and my team have, in between project time, and to kind of help build it as a pet project that at some day we can make it into a repository of 1,000 folk tales maybe. Because in India, we have so much art. Every 50 kilometers, the demograph changes, the people's lifestyles, their whole outlook changes from their arts, language, culture, everything. There is so much cultural heritage that we have that still is to be showcased to the world at large. Value your time. Value your time, value your teammates' time, value your clients' time, value everybody's time. Yes, you need time to explore, you need time to experiment, you need time to research, you need time to follow your heart, you need time which is downtime. But you need to remember that all of this comes together to be a part of All of this comes together, and all of this needs to be valued. So for whatever purpose you are sanctioning your time, you need to value it. Let there be a complete nothingness, because for you to create something, there should also be nothing, and let your brain go completely silent for a while. Meditate, yoga, take time out is an extremely important part of the creative process. Give your body its due as well. My motto has always been to make sure that we have a good ride, and make sure that everybody around me, my team, my people, everybody is growing together with us, and we're getting better and better as every day and every project comes along. Besides that, another extremely important learning has been patience, and that is something that we should all imbibe. Now, having spoken about these 15 learnings that I have picked up over the years, I actually wanted to show you a film that I made some years ago. It's something that I feel is a take on creativity in itself. Please have a look.
This video has been inspired by the Do-It-Yourself Cartoon Kit by Bob Godfrey. There, I said it. Trip Creative Services, if there is such a thing or company, presents the one and only, the all-in-one creativity kit. Now, here's your chance to be as creative as the next Joe. To avail this awesome product, just send us,
1 rupee and 3 bottle openers to this address, and the kit will be sent to you free with a gift wrapper.
I guarantee that if you are 5 or 155, you will enjoy this to no avail. If you are, however, any age in between, you might as well go and make use of the washroom, as this might not be of interest to you. Go make a deposit and join us once this is over.
Remember, just send us 10 rupees, 5 paise and 2 soggy briefs to this address.
The all-in-one creativity kit comes with its very own idea generator, idea copier, idea xeroxer, idea extractor, 25 directors, 20 animators, 10 developers, 5 photographers, 3 llamas, 2 homeless characters, 1 lemon squeezer, a complete sweatshop factory and 100 excuses for the right occasion.
Remember, just send us 100 rupees, 40 paise and 2 dancing interns to this address and get the early bird discount
on pigeon poop. Yes, a whole box of pigeon poop to be applied across any format for as long as you please. Even if that wasn't enough, just to sweeten the deal, you'll also receive an incomplete half-baked app, 2 sheep, a bouquet of web feeds, the Taj Mahal, and your very own life-size replica of me, Jeff. All you have to do is pick me up and place in my head on top of you. There, easy peasy. Now you're nearly as creative as your friend making the deposit. For those of you who are still not convinced, I give you the limited time offer of receiving our patented bullshit sound pre-recorded onto an electronic beauty spot. It's extremely handy and can easily be concealed. It can be used for any occasion, such as, we want something new. I love you, darling. It needed to be done yesterday. All you have to do is send us 6,999 rupees and 97 pesos along with 3 limited edition bottles of stress to this address. Now remember, it's really easy. The all-in-one creativity kit will let loose your innermost creative desires. Oops, seem to have left that one on by mistake. Now, where was I? Ah, yes.
It will bring out the origin of new.
We make it a point of honour never to keep our promises, so here's a sneak peek into creativity for all of you. That's all I have to say.
And that's it from me. Thank you so much, TEDxIIIT Bangalore, for this opportunity. I hope you enjoyed the talk and have a great day.
Thought-provoking as always. Thank you, Prateek. Our next speaker is Chhavi Goel. Chhavi Goel completed her Masters in Nutrition Sciences in 2014 and has since worked under India's leading nutritionist, Rujita Divekar. In her line of work, Chhavi Goel has interacted and met with people from all walks of life and has had the chance to explore the diets and cuisines of all parts of India. She strongly believes that good food, good health, and well-being are truly interconnected and help people realize their true potential.
Hi, I'm Chhavi Goel from Team Rujita Divekar. I'm a practicing nutritionist, and I find it nothing short of fascinating that even as we enter 2022, this is still an unconventional career choice. What will you do? Tell people what they already know? Was the most common question I was asked by my well-wishers. In a way, I understood their concern because eating food is supposed to be the most instinctive and the most intimate thing to do. But this profession for me was about reconnecting people to the lost knowledge of what to eat and when to eat. We have been so overloaded with information about food and nutrition that it has become more confusing than ever to stay healthy. To add to this confusion, we have diet trends which come and go like Instagram trends. What was yesterday's villain becomes today's hero. For example, a few years back, we had the low-fat, low-carb diet where we were asked to give up on ghee, makhan, oils. And now we have the high-fat, low-carb diets where the same foods which were supposedly bad for health until a few years back are now superfoods. To break through this confusion, we need to take an unconventional approach. One where we try to understand why there is a confusion for something which comes to us naturally. So let's take a look at two phenomena that are at the heart of this confusion. The first one is nutrition transition. Nutrition transition was a term coined by Barry Popkins in 1993. He was a nutrition science researcher. He defined nutrition transition as transitioning from traditional eating patterns to Western pattern diets. Western pattern diets here mean more packaged and processed foods. Nutrition transition is more evident in developing countries like ours, where we are shifting from eating traditional foods like our poha, upma, paratha to more Western foods like cereal milk, pancakes, juices, etc. This leads to cutting down on the diet diversity and makes our food choices uniform. When there is cutting down on diet diversity, there is also reduced availability of nutrients, which is why India is now going through what is known as the triple burden of malnourishment, where we have the overweight, underweight and micronutrient deficient population. Food economists believe that rich people from developing countries attach low prestige to local foods, and the food industry has a big role to play in this. So they project eating packaged cereals, breakfast cereals, as the yummy, healthy and cool thing to do over our traditional homemade breakfast. Whereas the truth is, traditional foods are not only better for our individual health, but also good for the local economy and global ecology. Modern nutrition science is also supporting this idea. For example, the latest American guidelines of 2020 say that we must customize and eat foods which reflect our personal preferences, cultural traditions, and budgetary consideration. The second phenomena is nutritionism. Nutritionism was a term coined by Michael Pollan, who was an author, and nutritionism means looking at food from a narrow window of carbs, proteins and fats. Just like racism, ageism, sexism, nutritionism is also a discrimination where we make food choices based on nutrients. Food is not just a sum of its nutrients. It is much more than that. It is a multidisciplinary subject which reflects things like the culture, cuisine, climate and crop cycle of that food. This is called the food system approach. The weight loss industry and the food industry, however, has reduced food to just nutrients. So meat becomes protein, rice becomes carbs, ghee becomes fats. This is called the food group approach. When we make food choices as per the food group approach, we only add to the confusion. Modern nutrition science has now moved from nutrient-based dietary guidelines to food-based dietary guidelines, or FBDGs. In fact, UN Food and Agriculture Organization says that FBDGs advise on foods, food groups and dietary patterns to provide nutrients for the health of general public and to prevent chronic diseases. Let me tell you about the observations and findings of a public health project that we had conducted in 2018. This was called the 12-week fitness project. The objective of this project was to understand the impact of culturally relevant food and lifestyle guidelines on public health. That is, the food system approach on public health. This project was conducted from Jan to March 2018. More than 1,25,000 people from over 40 countries participated in this project. During this project, one guideline every week was given to be followed cumulatively. The guidelines were simple and covered tips related to food and eating practices, activity levels and exercise, and lifestyle habits. All the food guidelines were traditionally relevant, which is how people were able to relate to them and also follow them easily. At the beginning of the project, we asked the participants to rate themselves on 6 metabolic health parameters: energy levels through the day, sleep quality in the night, acidity, bloating, indigestion, sweet cravings post meals, in case of women, PMS and period pain, and lastly, exercise compliance. We asked the participants to rate these health parameters every week after every guideline. Additionally, we also asked them to take their waist measurement at the navel at the end of every month. At the end of the program, when we analyzed the results, we found a significant improvement in all the health metabolic parameters. There was about, on an average, 40 to 65% improvement in them. Additionally, more than 80% participants also lost at least an inch from their waist circumference. Because these guidelines were traditional and easy to follow, they were sustainable, and therefore at the end of a whole year, we found that more than 90% of the participants still continued to follow the guidelines. The 12-week fitness project has been published in an international journal of public health, and in fact we were also invited to present the findings at FENS 2019 Dublin, Europe's largest nutrition conference. So now that we know that nutritionism and nutrition transition leads to more confusion, I would like to share a few guidelines from our 12-week fitness project that are simple, easy to follow, and will also help us steer clear from the food confusion. So the first one is eat a hot homemade traditional breakfast. It could be anything like poha, upma, dosa, paratha, thepla, depending on the region that you come from. Eating a home-cooked breakfast reduces the usage of packaged and processed foods like breakfast cereals, juices, etc. The second guideline is include a hyperlocal fruit in your diet daily. Hyperlocal fruits are the ones which are available for a short period of time and found only in the local markets. Hyperlocal fruits are important because they are a rich source of many important micronutrients. In fact, the UN FAO classifies these kind of fruits as NUS, or neglected and underutilized species. Some examples for hyperlocal fruits are karvand, falsa, bale, tadgola, kokum, etc. The third guideline is include ghee in your diet. Ghee is a source of a special strain of fatty acid called short chain fatty acid, which is prebiotic in nature. Therefore, it helps in improving digestion and bowel movements. Ghee also helps in absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. The fourth guideline is eat your dinner 2-3 hours before bedtime. An early dinner allows it to get digested well so that you can enjoy a good quality sleep. In many regions of our country, rice-based foods are traditional dinners. For example, khichdi, dal rice, sambar rice, dahi rice are some of the common dinners. Rice is good in dinner because it is light. In fact, it is a prebiotic which allows the gut bacteria to grow so that you have a good digestion and you wake up clearing your bowel well the next morning. Rice also contains a special set of amino acids called branch chain amino acids, or BCAA, which helps in muscle recovery and growth of strength. The last guideline is bring back all the cold press oils in your diet. Traditionally, cold press oils were known as kachi ghane ke oils, and our cuisines were fine tuned to these oils. For example, the Western cuisine mostly uses the groundnut oil, the Eastern cuisine mostly uses the mustard oil, and the Southern cuisines use the coconut oil. Cold pressed oils are important because they allow for absorption of all the fat soluble vitamins, particularly the vitamin D. Vitamin D is important for bone strength and hormonal balance. Also, having essential fat in the diet helps in proper blood sugar regulation and prevents sweet cravings post meals. All of these guidelines are not just brought to us by our grandmother, but they are also supported by the latest modern nutrition science. At the end, I would like to point out that out of 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the UN, 2 of the top 3 goals are related to food, nutrition and well-being. This goes to show that food is the main driver for growth and development. However, food confusions do not allow us to be our fittest selves. Therefore, it is very important that we bring back the old food conventional, which now seems to appear as an unconventional approach. We need to take an approach where we do not look at food from a small window of carbs, proteins, fats and calories, but look at it from a wider perspective of culture, cuisine, climate and crop cycle. Basically, we need to eat what is local, seasonal and traditional and enjoy food socially, emotionally and economically. As a nutritionist, this is what my profession is all about, and even though it's an unconventional approach, it is a critical one.
Thank you, Chhavi, for such an intriguing talk. Now it's time for another performance. Please put your hands together for Neha and Ketki, IM Tech students of TEDxIIIT Bangalore.
Hello, I'm Ketki. I'm Neha. Today we're going to perform a medley of a few classical Hindi songs. Hope you like it.
Thank you, Ketaki and Neha. We hope you guys enjoyed the performance. Our next speaker is Diksha Chhabra. From weighing over 100 kilos, from suffering from breathlessness of walking short distances, of being underconfident and severely depressed due to her overweight, she has truly turned it around. Diksha's fitness journey is a surreal one of true grit, determination and passion. The same passion she used to fuel her business model, which has shown a growth of 400% over 2 years with multiple media coverages and motivational talks. Now, worldwide, all people can get customized healthcare solutions through her startup.
For most of us, unconventional means not normal, out of the line, or a taboo. For me, it means power of making choice, taking decisions, and leading from the front. Being unconventional takes strength, courage, belief, and sometimes failure to embrace the beauty of being different. Hi, I am Diksha Chhabra, a fitness expert, entrepreneur, an army wife, a mother, and maybe someone who took a different path to build her world. And today, standing in front of you all as one of the speakers to say it loudly that it is alright to do things differently, the way you want, by not following the pattern, by making your own blueprint, by loving the uniqueness you're born with. You know, humans were created to be distinct from one another. The reason we became the most evolved species was because we had the power of thinking, and none of us was supposedly the same. We were created to be unlike, be it physically, mentally, or emotionally. But with time, we became a part of a society. A culture of normalizing and setting a pattern was created, probably initially to build an identity, but eventually with time we were tuned to follow it like a way of living. Back in time, from TV advertisements to modeling shoots, weren't we conditioned to look at fitness as just lean, muscular, six-pack abs and chiseled body? I mean, I was the same. My teenage years, I was made conscious of my broad and tall frame because petite and slender was perfect. Growing up and even much after, I would hate my body because it did not fit the description. Instead of discovering my inner strengths and capabilities, I used to sulk and overlook my health to become a part of the group. Ultimately, the pressure I was building within me collapsed. I became obese, depressed, and sick. It took me a while to realize that more than people bashing me, it was my body who was begging me to improve something in myself, and the change will only happen when I explore my inner strengths and work with it to reach a healthy state, which is made for my body and not for the society to dictate. In today's time, everything has become Instagrammable. People think that working out is a luxury, but it is actually a necessity. From fashion to fitness, people tend to follow what's trending. Social media has also taken a toll. Scroll through your Instagram and these people show you how to look attractive and proper at all times. It hits us so hard that we forget how these people impact us psychologically and how we tend to adapt their appearance. But why to lose our originality? Why to leave our comfort zone just for the sake of experiencing what someone else is living? Working out should be something you do for yourself, your health, your mind and body. And let me tell you, the definition for fitness cannot be same for everyone. There is already enough pressure, especially for young women, to appear perfect at all times. Perfect bodies do not exist. While magazines may have a template for how their models should look, fitness is not one size fits all. Can you tell me when is the time when you think you're fit and healthy? The time when you are happy and enjoying the process. You are having good time with your friends and family, but at the same time you're spending good time with yourself by exercising in whatever form you love. By exercising, it does not mean that you have to hit the gym, lift weights, practice yoga, Zumba, or any other physical activity that your sibling or best friend has adapted. The idea is to feel good when you are burning calories, and it can be an old school as well as any hybrid method you devise for yourself. Believe me, you will be at your healthiest when your mind, body, and soul are amalgamated together to bring the best for you and your body. We are sold this idea that looking a certain way will bring us approval, affection, love, respect, value, but the whole thing is a myth. You can only reach this ultimate stage of acceptance when you approve, love, respect, and value yourself, your body, and the efforts you're putting in. Exploring yourself with, let's say, exercise, food, fashion, or maybe the accounts you're following on Instagram enables you to find your way to express and lead your life. It makes you decisive and independent, and that is one thing I love about this generation. You people are ready to take those risks. You are not scared to be called a misfit, because with bigger risks come greater power, the power of believing in yourself. 10 to 15 years back, when I was your age and at the stage of starting my career, like any other person of my age, my focus was only employment. The objective for us was to get a job. We wanted to become a part of a company. A fixed salary was our goal. No matter whether we were underpaid too, we did not want to break the stereotype. Today's youth think very differently, with the confidence that after finishing the studies or qualifications, many of you know how to earn money, how to start your own setup, and that confidence of not being worried about whether I will fetch a job or not is a huge shift. It is the first step of breaking the conventional results expected from a college pass out, that you know if not a good job or maybe no job, I can start something of my own in the field I love. It is empowering. For the same, I could muster the courage after my 30s, and it happened so when I accepted myself, my flaws and strengths with equal pride. When I thought of going to the gym and working on myself, it was a time when women usually did not have the courage to step into the gym. Or even if there were women in the gym, they were usually on the treadmill or doing cardio. And I had this love for weight training, and people had this misconception that a woman's body is not meant to lift weights. But I did what I was passionate about. In a way, I broke the stereotype. And today I run my own company, Diksha Chhabra Fitness Consultations, where I not only train women but men too. It was my way to take an unconventional path to make my own career. It is a voyage of learning self-love to teaching many to love themselves with utmost sincerity. When you challenge yourself to do something new, something outside of your comfort zone, you get to see yourself in a new light. You get to appreciate what you are capable of, whether it is your body, mind, behavior, strength, or maybe as random as makeup. For anyone who is listening to this and feeling motivated, the most important aspect is having your own beautifully unique journey with unconditional love and respect for your own self. It is not just about my journey, but about any individual who wants to break the norms and do something unconventional. You love cake, you bake it. You love weights, you lift them. Simply do something that you love, because when you love your job, you love your life.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful talk. Our speaker for the evening is Ankush Jain. Ankush Jain is a clinical music therapist. Before embarking on the journey as a music therapist, he was a performing and recording artist, a multi-instrumentalist, and a beatboxer. He has performed at over 250 shows across the country, has featured in popular national newspapers, radio stations, and prestigious stages including TEDx Talks, Josh Talks, etc. He holds keen interest with rhythm and is an adept drum circle facilitator. He is currently the internship coordinator at VHS Hospital and a freelancing music therapist.
Doctor, lawyer, engineer, or my Marwadi family's personal favorite, businessman. These were probably the career choices I could have made when I had to do so. But me being the rebellious self, I chose to be a musician. My earliest reference and inspiration of music comes from my grandmom, who used to listen to songs and watch movies of almost every language before subtitles were even a thing. She understood emotions and characters way more than she understood language. That's probably why she connected with every human being she met through her lifetime. A decade or so later, when I made this choice of becoming a musician, this realization was probably the reason why. Because my introverted head found that music was probably the best way for me to connect with another person's emotions or thoughts. In my opinion, everybody's life has a soundtrack, and to be able to connect with them and be part of that soundtrack is something one has to go through to understand what it is. So around 2015, I started my career as a professional musician, and even though there were initial struggles like there is in every field you choose, especially when you choose something as unconventional as beatboxing, which happens to be a form of hip hop, and in a city like Chennai where new music is appreciated when it's very good. And I was very thankful to be starting off as an independent musician in Chennai, because I've said this I don't know how many times, but I'm going to say it again, that I don't think I would have made halfway where I am today if I was born in any other city or lived in any other city other than Chennai. So almost 8 years of being a professional musician at around 2019, before all this, like back when masks were an accessory, not a necessity, and social distancing was probably a joke. So I'm going to tell you a story which changed the way I look at myself and my music. At around this point in 2019, when I was performing for a gig for about 750 people, it was so loud. It was so loud that the neighbors had to call the cops to tone it down. So after the gig, a few of the audience members had come in to interact with us, and one of them said, and I quote because I vividly remember the conversation. She said, "I have been going through one of the darkest phases of my life in the last month and a half. Frequent panic attacks. I'm not able to sleep through for a couple of hours at a stretch. But when you performed, for the first time in a month and a half, I experienced silence." She wept. I wept. And that, my friends, is how my association with music, my realization with music, my communication through music changed. That's when I realized that music belongs to the world of well-being and healthcare as much as it does to the world of entertainment. This led me through a new phase in this journey, which I like to call the beautification of music for some reason. I think it's good to hear for me. Might be cringy for other people, I don't know. So this phase is where I got certified as a clinical music therapist from Chennai School of Music Therapy, which happens to be one of the only legit places to learn music therapy in the country. So when I said music therapist, I could almost hear the murmurs of everyone who was watching it, because when someone says musician or therapist, everybody is clear on what they do. But when I put those two words together, the classic Indian expression of comes in, right? So it's sometimes people think that music therapist is someone who plays music for patient in the hospital, a performer rather. It's actually, I'm more like a physical therapist or a physiotherapist. They use treadmills, walking rods and dumbbells. I use music. You know what? Let's put this to rest once for all. The difference between a musician and a music therapist is a simple change in focus. For a musician, it is what they can derive out of the experience of music. For a music therapist, it's what they can encourage another person to derive out of the experience of music. A simple change in focus. And Sometimes it comes off as music therapy is probably a new age science or a Gen Z gimmick that has gone into the healthcare sector or healthcare industry. In fact, it goes back, way back into Greek mythology, where Aristotle and Plato used to prescribe music as an additional form of well-being to their patients having symptoms of depression or anxiety or fearfulness, even emotional regulation or so on. I mean, and it was so evident in Greek mythology that god Apollo was assigned to reign over both healing and music, because according to them it was so closely connected. In India as well, way back when kings used to reign over kingdoms, of course, they used to have darbars where singers like Tansen and so on used to come in and sing for the kings and the people, because apparently it had transcendental powers. Music therapy is in fact a very scientific, evidence-based and a holistic approach to healthcare. When I say holistic, it shows how our modern medicine has developed from preventing disease to improving lifestyle of their patients. So when a music therapy session is on, or whenever the brain is in contact with music, the medial prefrontal cortex lights up. Of course, the other parts do too. I'm mentioning this one particularly because this triggers memory. Suddenly you see a person, a place, a memory from the past. This is probably why Alzheimer patients can remember songs from their youth, or stroke patient access lyrics faster than they can access language. So us as music therapists cater to regulation of parameters such as blood pressure, pulse, breath regulation, to complicated, slightly more complicated stuff like neuro rehab or palliative care or hypertension and learning disabilities and so on. So here in this next couple of minutes, I'm going to try and tell you, with my limited experience of music therapy, I have worked in departments such as neurosurgery, psychiatry and oncology. These have been my major area of work so far. So the first case that I would like to talk to you about is this patient who was a trauma patient. He had been attacked with a stick and had to go through a surgery called bifrontal craniectomy, which is basically removing this part of the skull, because like if we get hurt on the arm or the legs, the skin here is stretchable, so it can naturally swell out and swell in, which is not the case with the brain because the skull is in the way. So after the surgery, we realized that his ability to process emotions had almost dwindled down to zero. And we also noticed that his movement on the left side of his body was not as efficient as on his right side. So after working with him for a month and a half, we were able to get him to smile again, sing his favorite bhajan, and his movement in the left side was far better when we started 45 days back. This is supported by this theory called the opera hypothesis and the SEP hypothesis, which basically means, okay, let's do this. The neural connections in the brain are so intertwined and so dense. Let's imagine the electricity pole of our local electricity board. If you have to find a one particular wire, I mean, good luck. So imagine the brain's networks like that, and a lot of networks, like for example, the BG thalamocortical circuit all controls speech and movement. So when we work on one aspect, the other aspect that's lacking also comes up eventually. One of the most fascinating cases that I saw in psychiatry was this case relating to psychosomatic pain. Now, psychosomatic disorder is a mind-body disorder. Psycho meaning the brain, soma meaning the body. So in my opinion, in my very humble opinion, it's easier to get diagnosed for something that's wrong on the surface. I mean, physically. So when there's stuff that's bottled up inside you because of stress or emotional turmoil, it becomes difficult to diagnose, and it also is difficult to manage that. So your body and mind finds a way to release the stress or whatever that's bottled up. For some people, it develops into acne. For some people, it develops into rashes in their hands or legs or body. Or for other people, it comes out as pain on the lower back, shoulders, and so on. So with this person or cases like this in general, music therapy sessions are a mode of release. To confide into someone who's essentially a stranger in the beginning, to confide into the stresses of their lives, and to find a release that can bring down the pain scale even physically. In the Department of Oncology, for example, we had this fascinating case where the patient was declared terminally ill, which means death was a certainty sooner than later. Even in this situation where he received the diagnosis, he had taken it in his stride and just went on with it. After his first music therapy session though, he wept like a baby. Upon asking why, he said this act of kindness and unconditional love that he experienced during the session just made him very overwhelmed. The point that I'm trying to drive home is a simple act of kindness can go a long way. During tough times like the COVID-19 pandemic, I had conducted this survey. About 154 people participated, and the results were astounding for me. 88% of the population agreed that music is probably the best mood regulator for them, and a staggering 77.6% of the participants declared that there was an increased time in music listening during their quarantine period. So it goes on to say that our general expression of, I had a bad day, I probably am going to go listen to this particular form of music. So this journey of being a musician and then a music therapist has taught me quite a few things, introduced me to sounds that I probably wouldn't have otherwise, met people that I probably would not have met otherwise than like being a musician or a music therapist. It's given me experiences, memories, people, knowledge, skills, and the list keeps going on. When I reflect upon this journey, what comes to the forefront is that I'm very proud of myself in the very humble sense that I chose happiness over conventionality. Like I could have taken a job or done any business and been successful for about 10-15 years. What stopped me was the fear of not being happy in the long run. The thrill and the excitement of taking the road less taken has brought me this far in front of you. In this journey of a few years, what has driven the whole process, I can point my finger to one thing without thinking twice. And I've said this a million times on stage to my patients or clients and my friends and family, of course. I'm going to say that again. I don't know what your question is. Love either has the answer or is the answer. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ankush Jain. Thank you for your time.
Introducing our next speaker, Preksha Kaparwan. In her own words, she is an accidental entrepreneur and a reckless marketer. Her work is an amalgamation of marketing, technology, and finance. Her journey is quite unconventional, which we will shortly witness.
Hi, I'm Preksha Kaparwan. I'm one of the founders of one of the upcoming startups in India that works around conversational AI. What we do is we enable users to talk to their data. Yes, like you talk to a chatbot or like you talk to a voice assistant. You must have heard about a lot of chatbots that are being used in banking applications. and AI assistants that your banking service must be offering you, or you must have tried Alexa or Google Home or Siri on your own phones and devices, right? Well, these all fall under the category of conversational AI. It is also sometimes called voice AI. Conversational AI doesn't only speaks about natural language processing, but also smaller pieces of technology that helps machine talk to human, that helps machine understand the intention, the language, and how to respond to it. If you had early access to any of the devices that gave you AI assistant like an iPhone that had Siri, Google Home device that you could talk to, you must have realized that they were really frustrating to actually have a conversation with. I remember this one time my dad was actually yelling at the Siri device, trying to make it understand that this is the song, a Hindi Kishore Kumar song that he wants to listen to. But he finally gave up after 11 tries. And I could see him and I understood his frustration, and I realized that I really can't help him. So, maybe I should stay out of it. But in last 5 years, these technologies have advanced tremendously. Today, when you speak to your device, it talks back to you. It tries to have a conversation, which it did not back in the day, right? So now when you are looking at your banking application and thinking why it is so limiting, why am I being just able to pick some keywords and that is all it is going to tell me? That is where certain kind of chatbots, which are not that advanced, they come in picture. Now, conversational AI means that human is being able to actually have a conversation with the machine, but it is not that simple. Human conversations are complex, they are emotional, they have context. But for a machine to understand that, it's gonna be a big leap. And today where we are at, and the reason why technology today seems much more palatable than those days is because the accessibility of AI to masses. That means that you are seeing different applications of AI in your daily roles, in the work that you are doing, or maybe games that you are playing. So AI is machine's ability to learn and act as a human. That is artificial intelligence, which tries to recreate how humans think, how humans react, and how human takes an action. Now, there are multiple ways it can mimic human. They can be sensory, they can be visual, they can be speech-wise, and they can be action-wise, right? So when it comes to conversational AI, it takes a piece of the speech part where it understands, where it processes, where it generates natural language to be able to create some kind of human form of language, because we can't all code, right? The languages that computer use to talk to each other is code. The language of human used to talk to computer used to be codes. But today, machines are evolving to use our language which we use in daily life with our family, with our people in our office, and vernacular languages that are being spoken in region. Now that become a part of conversational AI because a certain set of technologies are coming together, something like automatic speech recognition, natural language processing, dialogue management, dynamic intent engine, that's something we have patent on, and machine learning, which tries to learn by every conversation that it's having. Applied conversational AI requires both science and arts because it's trying to recreate a scenario within which the dialogue has to happen. It needs personalization, relevance, and context between human and computer interaction. And now there is a new discipline called conversational design, which is dedicated to create conversation within machines which sounds more natural in human interaction and do not seem like preset, recognized way of answering the questions, which you might have seen in a lot of FAQ interactions you have with a website or a machine or a lot of banking chatbots, for example. You must be wondering why so much resources, research, and money is being spent on something like conversational AI. Well, let me take you back to my story of how I came to be founder of a conversational AI startup. And, I'll let you put some of the applications where all it could have replaced me or where all it could have helped in making a better experience for people I was interacting with. Many years ago, I used to be a chef. It's different, right? It used to be a place, a magical place, I would say, because I always had a lot of food. So that was good. But my responsibilities were not only cooking good food, but around managing the revenue for the entire restaurant, forecasting how many customers I'm going to get and what kind of ingredients I need for each and every dish on the menu. And it was an extensive menu. I used to forecast what events might happen in certain season and what kind of equipments, what kind of staff requirement I will have. And apart from that, my key responsibility was to interact with customer and make sure that they are satisfied, take their feedback, and regularly keep checking on if something needs to change or modify or something their preferences are. Now, if you look at our customer's journey in a restaurant, someone makes a reservation using a phone, and there is a receptionist who would answer the phone and tell him about the availability. So something like a Google Duplicate technology that you must have seen in one of the keynotes actually, where someone is making reservation talking to a assistant on phone. Something like that can help, right? Now the customer has made a reservation and he arrives at the spot. While he's being seated in his seat, he can be given a menu, a digital menu, or he can talk to an audio device, could be a Google Home for example, and ask what are the popular dish for the day. And it can recite that these are the popular dish that you can pick from, and 7 customers in last 30 minutes have ordered this, right? So that is somewhat validation that they are picking the right dish. Then this same order can be given to me in the kitchen as a chef, because I have to bark my orders to my staff so that they can start preparing it. The same system can understand what the person wants to have. If they have certain questions around that, give me something which is not spicy, or I am allergic to seafood. So Google Home can reply or can understand from the context that this person do not want seafood in their food options, right? So the same information can be passed on to me. So that is a meaningful conversation, a conversational AI is having with a customer, where it's being able to identify if the intent of the sentence where the customer says, I'm allergic to seafood, that means that he do not want seafood. If you look at a chatbot, they usually will derive from the sentence that they are asking for seafood, because the intent and the entity is 2 parts that NLP looks at. But you look at a simple dialogue-based conversation, the intent is missing, just the entity comes in the picture. Now, the same conversation can be created into an order and sent to the kitchen, where I receive it and I bark the same order to my staff. So once that's done, the device can alert the customer that your food is ready and the waiter will be bringing in that in just few minutes. They receive it. If they have something to say about the food, they can talk to the device. Now, if they have any thing to say about the food, any feedback, any query, something that they did not like or something they really relished, they can simply ask the device or talk to the device about it. Now, I know you will feel that the human connection is missing over there. But if you're talking about what place technology can take in a mundane restaurant service, this is a part where you can imagine. It is not a necessity where human emotion and connection is required, yes. But if you're trying to see how able technology is, this is a good scenario to sort of hypothesize, right? Now, when customer is done, I get a notification as a chef in a kitchen, because otherwise what I usually would do, go make a round of the restaurant, keep asking about, so how was your food, ma'am, how was your food, ma'am, how was your food, right? And the problem is that probably they were just talking, they haven't even started eating it yet. But because I'm out of the kitchen and I have 100 guests in the restaurant, I'll just start doing my job by asking each one of them up. But if I have a device which is, let's say by computer vision, notice that plate is empty or half eaten, can alert me that I can now go and check out if the customer is done, if I can take their feedback on food now. Now look at the next part of my role. The kitchen is closed, everyone is gone. My staff is eating, they are closing up the kitchen, and I am looking at the inventory. Wouldn't it just be easier if I am able to ask my AI assistant, a conversational AI assistant, that which all dishes did we serve today and how many of them did we serve? And apart from that, also tell me which ingredients we are running low on and how much of it was consumed today. See, so these 4 or 5 questions is where we come in picture. We as a company come in picture, where we look at data and we allow user to have a conversation with that data. Now, I'm talking about a typical kitchen scenario where everything revolves around food, but same situation if you take it to a superstore, for example. I can ask something like, how many iPhones did I sell today? Let me just show you an example of that. So something like this can be in hands of every user, where they can simply ask a question like, what is the sales in categories? And it simply tells me what was the sale for the category. I can further dig in and ask about what was the sale of chairs in top 5 states. And there it is. I have a state-wise answer of what was the sale. I can also go ahead and ask for sales and profit both. Sales and profit by subcategory. And now I can see that the sales and profit for these categories are being shown in red and blue separately. That's how conversational AI interacts with data. That means those little small questions that you have around your business, your work, you should be able to simply ask instead of waiting for someone in technology to help you out with. It's not a difficult or a bad role or bad practice to involve your technology guys, but in large companies, the technology teams are very small. They are very pressed for time. They are very pressed for multiple reports and dashboards that they need to show. So how about we create a conversational way for a user, which is a direct user, direct consumer of that particular data, to be able to ask questions and have a conversation. Now, coming back to my kitchen analogy, you must have realized that there are multiple touch points where conversational AI can replace human, not exactly replace human, but can help human or assist human. And if you're thinking that these roles will deplete because AI is taking over, that is still not possible and may not be possible in your lifetime actually. Also, in the entire talk, you must have noticed I talked about a new role of conversational design. So those kind of new roles will keep coming where machine will need our help. Machine will need us to guide them to do certain things that they cannot think of doing themselves. And that is one reason why GPT-3 and GPT-4 and BERT, these technologies are confined to use cases. Because you cannot have an all-knowing AI creating use cases on its own. We work with teams of researchers and team of engineers to figure out that what will work for a particular domain. For example, for banking, if you can forgive your chatbot that talks to you today and gives you very specific data based on keywords or asks you to pick few of the keywords that it's giving you to select, if you can forgive that, look past it, it is on its way to becoming more smarter and have a more decent, more meaningful conversation, in the sense that if you are saying that this month I'm unable to pay my EMI, what is the interest I'll have to pay? Is there any way I can skip that? Is there any way my date can be extended? And your assistant will be able to answer these questions. So not only we are trying to see how these interactions can be more natural for you, we are also trying to make sure that everyone who's interacting with any of the businesses, they have someone to help them, because we do not have that kind of bandwidth or that kind of budget to provide one human assistant to everyone. And that in turn also helps employees of these businesses to cut down their hours of work, and you could be one of them. So a small trick that we tried to implement was that in every business there is some kind of data that needs to be assessed by certain teams to be able to take those decisions or do their daily activities, make some actions, right? Or give it to their customers so they can make the right choices while making their banking decisions. I'm talking about banking scenarios so much because that is something that has a lot of financial value. A customer, every time interacting with a human or machine, is trying to understand if he's not losing money, if he can get more money, or if he can do certain investments which will give them good interest. To facilitate that, what we did is we created a method where conversation can happen on top of data. That means there are no open conversations where it is just being able to search which city you're gonna go to, where you can travel, or not simply doing a Google search for you, but instead it is doing the real grunt work that you do in your daily role. That means when you talk to us, we are not only trying to understand what keywords you are using, we are also trying to understand what is your intent, and if that intent makes sense in context to the role or the industry that you work in. That means whenever you're asking what is the sales for this particular region for medicines, it knows that you make 4 medicines and these are the 4 kind of regions that you have, and out of that you're authorized to only check for 1. So that is the intent that it understood. It created a dynamic context based on your role and industry, and now it is querying the database by simply creating a query, a SQL query, which maybe you cannot create today, but this made the entire exercise really simple, right? Now you're simply asking one English language question and generating a query. For you, it is as simple as that, and you don't even have to worry about the query. When you spoke something, query got generated, it got to the database, you got the right data in chart format which is easily understandable. Not only that, it will also generate a natural language summary for you, so that if data is complex, you can read the summary and you can understand that this is what exactly you wanted as an answer, right? So that means when you're simply asking a questions, you don't even have to worry about creating a query. It is doing all on itself, creating that, talking to the database and giving you an answer in simple understandable format of creating a chart or by creating a small summary for you. But this is not all. There are multiple other products that you can use or you must be using in your daily life, like a caption generation in YouTube or caption generation in Instagram. That means when you're saying something, your voice is being interpreted in text, and that is immediately available for you to see. So you can also correct it, and that's how the AI understands that this is what this word sounds like in your diction. It's amazing, right? Apart from that, there is OpenAI created some of the GPT-3 and GPT-4 model, which we briefly touched upon earlier. It also opened some APIs for some of the users and developers to be able to create smaller models. And you have seen some of the examples where people are talking to create an image. If you say that I want to see a turtle chair, you will immediately get image of a turtle chair which is green in color, shaped like a turtle shell or something like that. Similarly, there is another website you can go to, writers.ai, where it will complete your sentences. When you are saying that I want to write about red rose and ribbon, It will create a paragraph for you just to complete your email or complete your story. So that is the kind of understanding conversational AI has today. It's the kind of understanding that can really give some value to some of the roles, some of the work that we are doing today. Nothing understands me as well as you do. Nothing interprets the text so well as you do, and nothing creates query as quickly as you do. So that means we have come to a place where people are getting comfortable talking to a device, just like you tried few years back, but now you're shy because sometimes it won't understand your diction, sometimes it will not understand your accent. But you know what, like, the machines are also learning, and so are we, and human also will have to evolve to accommodate these machines in our lives, because that is how the future is going to look like. That is where more jobs will lie. That is where more efficiency in work will lie, and you and I will have more time to have these chats.
Well, the event has almost come to an end. But how can we conclude without thanking all of those who supported us through this journey and have made this event possible? I'd like to call co-organizer Janvi to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. So today, I, Jahanvi Agrawal, the co-organizer of TEDxIIIT Bangalore, would like to take this opportunity to extend the word of thanks on behalf of our entire team. After so many amazing talks, the event has finally come to an end. TED's mission statement says, ideas are worth spreading. Their goal is to inspire millions across the world by sharing their revolutionary ideas, which will embark us on the journey of changing the way we look at things. I would like to thank them for providing us with such a wonderful platform to share and propagate ideas while meeting new and experienced patrons. Special thanks to our ever-smiling director, Sir Dr. Debabrata Das, for always having our back. Extending a warm thanks to the most humble person I've ever met, our very own Registrar Sir, Commodore S.R. Sridhar, and also Swati ma'am, for encouraging us to conduct the event virtually amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. This was a difficult situation indeed, and we would not have been able to work so efficiently without their unwavering support. They have guided us throughout the years by giving us functional independence for it to be a completely student-run company. I would also like to thank the finance team and, of course, again Swati ma'am, whom I can't thank enough for ensuring the event budget was never an issue. Of course, we now extend thanks to our wonderful audience for attending the event. To all those watching from home, we hope that you had a great evening, and we definitely wish to see you again the next time. Thanks to all the students of TEDxIIIT Bangalore for extending their support, for always being available whenever we needed an extra hand. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank every one of our speakers for making this iteration of TEDxIIIT Bangalore successful with their consistent support and enlightening talks. The amount of effort they have put in delivering these talks is really unparalleled. They went the extra mile in not just creating content, but also recording the talks. We definitely realized that an online event is not the same, but the way they were consistently supportive and adapted to all the changes was really fantastic. I would also like to thank them for being patient with us and for re-recording the talks to accommodate all of our comments. You guys are really the best. Thanks to the entire speaker creation team, that is Monjoy, Mayank Chadda, Shaunak and Satvik Bhatt, who helped our wonderful speakers in curating the amazing talks. Now, our very own design team needs a special mention, right? Who churned out great designs. All they had were our half-immature ideas, which couldn't have turned into reality without them. Thanks to Nikhil, Nand Kishore, Murli and Shri Harsha for this. Your level of quality work remains unprecedented in the team. The event wouldn't have been smooth in execution if it wasn't for our backstage heroes, the event management team, that is Chaitanya Manas and Ritik. They stepped up for the challenge of the virtual event and ensured all the contests that you guys took part in went on smoothly. Every event is made great by its audience, right? And the reason you all are here is due to the incredible work by our very own marketing team, that is Neelab, Yash and Tejas. I thank you for all the effort you guys have put into social media and outreach campaigns throughout the journey. A special shout out to Shri Harsha and Vijay for making an impressive website. I hope you guys did check it out, right? Also, Chaitanya and Asmita, your wonderful hosts for the evening. We all would like to thank Ketki and Neha and also Varsha and Nikhila for your impeccable performances. We appreciate the hard work you have put in these. A big round of applause for their amazing talent. Mansa Kashyap, my fellow co-organizer, deserves all the appreciation and applause for being an amazing partner in helping us organize this event. Thanks for bringing things to speed and for always being welcoming. You were the push that helped us make this event a reality. Thanks to Vijay Jaishankar, the organizer for this year's iteration of TEDxIIIT Bangalore. His consistent enthusiasm and ideas are truly inspiring. Thanks for supporting the team at every roadblock. Going virtual comes with its own set of challenges, right? But we could not have tackled this without his support. A special thanks to Tejas Kota and Shreyas Gupta, founders and backbone of TEDxIIIT Bangalore, as their valuable suggestions and ideas are responsible for the event's success today. Being part of the community has taught me many things, but the best part has been the sheer enthusiasm and commitment of each team member in working for the event's success. I'm honored to have worked with you all. I hope that in the coming iteration of TEDxIIIT Bangalore, this just gets better. Eagerly looking forward to the next one. Hopefully, all of our experiences will help in mentoring the juniors. I wish for them to have as much as fun as we did. Overall, this was an informative, inspiring, and entertaining event. Thank you. Signing off.
Cecil Beaton said, "Be daring, be different, be impractical, be anything that will assert the integrity of purpose and imaginative vision against the play it safers, the creatures of commonplace and the slaves of the ordinary." With this thought in mind, we conclude this iteration of TEDxIIIT Bangalore. This event would not have been possible without all your support. Thank you so much for attending this event, and we hope all of you had a great time. See you in the next edition. Thank you.